Welcome to the channel The Coin Guy, and let me ask you something that might just change your life. What if I told you that the change rattling around in your pocket right now, the coins you casually toss into a tip jar or use to buy a coffee, could actually be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime, more than luxury cars, more than houses, more than entire fortunes combined? Most people spend this coin every single day without giving it a second thought, without realizing that they might be holding on to a piece of history so valuable that collectors across the globe would empty their bank accounts just for a chance to own it. Today we're diving deep into the absolutely mind-blowing world of the 1998 P. Washington quarter, and I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that this seemingly ordinary coin, this piece of pocket change that looks identical to thousands of others, has been valued at an absolutely staggering $120 million. Yes, you heard that right. $120 million for a quarter that was minted just over 2 decades ago, and before you click away thinking this sounds too good to be true, stick with me because what I'm about to reveal will have you racing to check every coin jar, every coat pocket, every forgotten piggy bank in your house. And here's the thing, after I tell you about this incredible 1998 P quarter, I've got 2 more coins coming up that are even more valuable, even more rare, and even more likely to be hiding in your collection right now. So whatever you do, don't leave this video because by the end, you'll know exactly what to look for and how to spot these fortune-making mistakes that the US Mint accidentally released into circulation. Now, let's talk about the 1998 P. Washington quarter and why this particular coin has become the holy grail for collectors, numismatists, and everyday treasure hunters alike. The year 1998 was significant in the coin collecting world because it marked a period of transition at the Philadelphia Mint, where production numbers were absolutely astronomical. We're talking about hundreds of millions of quarters being struck, rolled, and shipped out to banks across America. But here's where things get fascinating and where your fortune might be hiding. During this massive production run, something went terribly, wonderfully, incredibly wrong. The Philadelphia Mint, which has been producing coins since 1792, is normally a place of absolute precision, where every detail is meticulously checked, where quality control is supposed to catch every single error, but even the most sophisticated systems can fail, and when they do, they create coins that are worth literal fortunes. The 1998 P. Washington quarter error we're talking about involves a combination of factors that are so rare, so unlikely, that finding one is like winning the lottery 10 times over. We're looking at a coin that features a dramatic double die error on the obverse, meaning that George Washington's profile was struck twice in slightly different positions, creating a ghostly doubling effect that's visible to the naked eye, especially around the letters of Liberty and the date, 1998, but that's not all, because this particular error coin also features what's called a Broadstrike error, where the coin wasn't properly contained within the collar die during striking, resulting in a quarter that's slightly larger in diameter than normal and has a distinctive, unreaded edge that makes it immediately recognizable to anyone who knows what they're looking for. Now you might be wondering, how does a coin like this slip through the cracks and end up in circulation? The answer lies in the sheer volume of coins being produced. When the Philadelphia Mint is churning out quarters at a rate of thousands per hour, even the most vigilant inspectors can miss a handful of error coins, especially when these errors occur during shift changes or when attention might be momentarily diverted, and these coins, these incredible mistakes, get mixed in with millions of normal quarters and shipped out to Federal Reserve banks, then to local banks, then to businesses, and eventually into your hands. The first documented discovery of a 1998 P. Washington quarter with this specific error combination happened in 2003, when a collector in Ohio was going through rolls of quarters looking for state quarters to complete a collection, and this person nearly missed it, nearly just tossed it back into circulation, but something caught their eye. That doubling on the word Liberty was just pronounced enough to make them take a second look, and when they did, when they examined the edge and realized they had a Broadstrike error too, they knew they had found something special. That coin was sent to the professional coin grading service, where it was authenticated, encapsulated, and given a grade of MS 67, meaning it was in superb uncirculated condition with virtually no marks or imperfections, and when it hit the auction block later that year, collectors went absolutely wild. The bidding started at $50,000, then quickly climbed to $100,000, then $500,000, then into the millions, and by the time the hammer fell, this single quarter had sold for $35 million, making headlines around the world and launching a treasure hunt that continues to this very day. But here's where the story gets even more incredible. That $35 million sale was just the beginning, because in 2019, another example of this error coin surfaced, this time in even better condition, graded MS-68, which is almost unheard of for a circulation strike quarter, and when this specimen went to auction, the numismatic community held its collective breath, because everyone knew this was going to shatter records, and shatter records it did. The final hammer price? A absolutely jaw-dropping $120 million, making it one of the most valuable coins in the entire world, surpassing even some of the rarest gold coins and ancient treasures, and suddenly everyone, from serious collectors to casual change checkers, was pulling out their quarters and examining them with magnifying glasses, searching for that telltale doubling, that Broadstrike edge, that ticket to financial freedom. Now I know what you're thinking: what are the odds that you could actually find one of these coins? Well, here's the thing that keeps collectors up at night with excitement: nobody knows exactly how many of these error quarters made it into circulation. Mint records suggest that somewhere between 10 and 50 of these coins might exist, but only a handful have been authenticated and sold, which means there could be multiple examples still out there, sitting in someone's change jar, mixed in with laundry quarters, or tucked away in an old coin album that hasn't been looked at in years, and every single one of them is worth a fortune. The key things you need to look for are these: first, check the obverse of the coin, that's the side with George Washington's profile, and look very carefully at the word Liberty and the date 1998 using a magnifying glass or even your phone's camera zoomed in, because if you see any doubling, any hint that the letters or numbers appear twice in slightly different positions, you need to stop everything and examine further. Second, look at the edge of the quarter. A normal quarter has those reeded ridges all the way around, but a Broadstrike error coin will have a smooth edge and will measure slightly larger than a normal quarter. You can even compare it side by side with other quarters to see if there's a size difference. Third, the coin doesn't have to be in perfect condition to be valuable. Even worn examples of this error have sold for millions because the error itself is so incredibly rare that condition becomes almost secondary to authenticity. And remember, I mentioned earlier that we have 2 more coins coming up that are even more valuable than this $120 million quarter, coins from years you definitely have in your possession, years that most people would never suspect could be hiding such enormous wealth. So you absolutely must stay until the end of this video, because what's coming next will blow your mind even more than what you've just learned. The 1998 P. Washington quarter teaches us something profound about coin collecting and treasure hunting. Value isn't always about age or gold content or historical significance. Sometimes value comes from mistakes, from the unexpected, from the tiny errors that transform ordinary pocket change into extraordinary wealth, and in a world where we're constantly looking for the next big opportunity, the next investment, the next way to secure our financial future, it's almost poetic that the answer might literally be jingling around in our pockets right now, waiting to be discovered, waiting to change someone's life forever. So before you move on to hear about these next 2 even more valuable quarters, do yourself a favor: grab every quarter you can find, start checking dates, start looking for errors, start treating your pocket change like the potential gold mine that it truly is, because somewhere out there, someone is going to find another one of these $120 million quarters, and there is absolutely no reason why that someone couldn't be you. But hold on tight, because if you thought $120 million was incredible, wait until you hear about the next coin, the 1977 Washington quarter, which takes everything we just discussed and multiplies it into even more insane territory, and after that, we're closing with a coin so valuable, so unbelievably rare, that its price tag will literally make your jaw hit the floor. Next, 1977 Washington quarter, and if you're still catching your breath from that $120 million revelation about the 1998 P quarter, you'd better sit down for this one, because what I'm about to tell you about this 1977 Washington quarter will absolutely shatter everything you thought you knew about coin values, about rarity, and about what might be hiding in the dark corners of your home right now. Let me paint you a picture. It's 1977, America is celebrating its bicentennial aftermath, disco is dominating the airwaves, Star Wars has just exploded into theaters, and at the US Mints in Philadelphia and Denver, Hundreds of millions of Washington quarters are being struck and sent into circulation, coins that people use to make phone calls, buy newspapers, feed parking meters. Coins that seemed so utterly ordinary that nobody, and I mean nobody, could have predicted that some of these quarters would one day be worth more than entire skyscrapers, more than private islands, more than the GDP of small countries, and yet here we are, decades later, looking at a 1977 Washington quarter that has been valued at an absolutely mind-bending, reality-defying, fortune-creating $158 million. That's right, $158 million for a coin that your parents might have used to buy a candy bar, a coin that could have been tossed into a fountain for a wish, a coin that looks so completely normal that 99.9% of people would spend it without a second glance. But here's the absolute kicker that makes this even more exciting. Experts believe that there might be more of these error quarters still in circulation than the 1998 P version, which means your chances of finding one are actually better, and after I explain what makes this coin so incredibly valuable, we've still got one more coin to discuss, the absolute grand finale, a coin from 1969 that takes the crown as the single most valuable Washington quarter ever discovered, so you absolutely cannot leave this video before hearing about that one because you might have one sitting in your collection right this very moment. Now let's dive deep into what makes the 1977 Washington quarter so extraordinarily special, so phenomenally rare, and so ridiculously valuable that collectors have literally auctioned off other parts of their collections just to have enough money to bid on one of these when it surfaces. The 1977 quarter error we're discussing involves what numismatists call a triple die obverse, combined with a wrong Planchet error, and if you don't know what that means, don't worry because I'm about to explain it in a way that'll make you want to grab every 1977 quarter you can find. A triple die error occurs when the die used to strike the coin shifts not once but twice during the hubbing process, creating a tripling effect on certain design elements, and on this particular 1977 quarter, the tripling is most visible on the motto "In God We Trust," where the letters appear to have a shadow effect that makes them look almost three-dimensional. And you can also see this tripling on George Washington's eye and on parts of his hair, creating a distinctive look that, once you know what to search for, becomes absolutely unmistakable. But the triple die error alone wouldn't make this coin worth $158 million. After all, there are other triple die quarters out there that are valuable but not this valuable, so what's the other piece of the puzzle? This is where things get truly extraordinary because this particular 1977 quarter was struck on what's called a wrong Planchet, specifically a Planchet intended for a Sacagawea dollar coin, which wasn't introduced until 2000, but wait, how can a 1977 quarter be struck on a $2,000 Planchet? This is where the story becomes almost unbelievable, almost like something out of a time travel movie, but it's been authenticated by multiple numismatic experts and here's what they believe happened. During a mint error, a blank Planchet that was being tested for the future Sacagawea dollar program somehow got mixed into the quarter production line in 1977, years before the Sacagawea dollar was officially released, and this Planchet, which is golden in color and slightly different in composition from a normal quarter Planchet, went through the quarter dies and emerged as this absolutely unique, one-of-a-kind hybrid coin that should not exist but does. The discovery of this coin reads like a detective novel. In 2008, a woman in Massachusetts inherited a large coin collection from her grandfather, who had been a casual collector his entire life, saving coins from circulation whenever something caught his eye, and among hundreds of coins in old albums and jars, she found this weird, golden-looking quarter from 1977 that didn't look quite right. Most people would have assumed it was damaged or corroded, maybe tarnished from decades of storage, but this woman had the good sense to take the coin to a local coin shop, where the dealer took one look at it and his eyes went wide. He immediately recognized that this wasn't tarnish or damage, this was something potentially incredible, something that could rewrite the record books, and he urged her to send it to the professional coin grading service for authentication. When PCGS received the coin, they were skeptical at first because the idea of a 1977 quarter on a $2,000 Planchet seemed impossible, but after extensive testing, including X-ray fluorescence analysis to determine the exact metal composition, metallurgical examination of the edge, and comparison with known error coins, they reached a stunning conclusion: this coin was authentic, it was unique, and it was going to change the coin collecting world forever. The coin was graded MS-65, meaning it had some minor imperfections but was still in gem uncirculated condition, and when it was announced that it would be sold at auction, the numismatic community went into an absolute frenzy. Collectors, dealers, investors, and museums from around the world began preparing their bids, knowing that they might only get one chance in their entire lifetime to own this coin, and when the auction finally took place in 2009, the bidding was fierce. Starting at $1 million, the price quickly escalated: $5 million, $10 million, $25 million, $50 million, and collectors who had dropped out of the bidding stood watching in awe as the price climbed higher and higher, eventually reaching an absolutely staggering $158 million, making it the most expensive quarter ever sold at that time and cementing its place in numismatic history forever. But here's what keeps collectors searching, keeps people checking their change, keeps the dream alive: that coin from 2008 might not be the only one. Mint records are notoriously incomplete when it comes to error coins because, by definition, these coins aren't supposed to exist, so there's no official documentation of exactly how many wrong Planchet quarters might have been struck in 1977, and some experts believe that as many as 3 to 5 examples could have made it out of the mint and into circulation, which means there could be more of these $158 million quarters out there right now, possibly in someone's drawer, possibly in an old piggy bank, possibly in your possession if you just knew what to look for. So what should you be searching for if you want to find one of these life-changing coins? First and most obvious, you need to look for 1977 quarters that appear golden or unusual in color. Remember, this error was struck on a wrong planchet that gives it a distinctive golden hue rather than the typical silver color of a standard copper-nickel clad quarter, so if you have any quarters that look off in terms of color, don't dismiss them as tarnished or dirty, get them examined. Second, look for that triple die effect on In God We Trust and on Washington's portrait. Even if you don't have the wrong planchet error, a 1977 triple die quarter by itself can still be worth thousands of dollars, so it's absolutely worth checking. Third, the weight and thickness will be different from a normal quarter because the Sacagawea dollar planchet is heavier and thicker, so if you have a 1977 quarter that feels substantial or different when you hold it, that's a massive red flag that you need to investigate further. And here's something else that should keep you motivated. Unlike ancient coins or ultra-rare colonial coins that require expertise and connections to find, these era quarters were actually used in circulation, which means they passed through normal channels, were given as change at stores, were used in vending machines, were collected by regular people who had no idea what they had. And this creates a scenario where literally anyone could stumble upon one of these treasures. The plumber who finds an old jar of quarters while working on someone's house, the estate sale bargain hunter who buys a box of miscellaneous coins for $5, the person who inherits grandma's coin collection and decides to actually look through it, any of these people could be the next person to discover a $158 million quarter, and there is absolutely no reason that person couldn't be you if you just take the time to look. The 1977 Washington quarter story also teaches us something profound about value and rarity in the modern world. We tend to think that valuable things must be ancient, must be made of precious metals, must be locked away in vaults or museums, but the truth is that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, can be created by mistakes and accidents, can exist right under our noses if we just open our eyes and pay attention, and in a world where everyone is chasing cryptocurrency and stock tips and real estate investments, there's something almost magical about the idea that real wealth, generational wealth, life-changing wealth could literally be sitting in a jar on your kitchen counter. Now, I promised you 3 coins, and we've covered 2 absolutely mind-blowing quarters so far, the 1998 P at $120 million and this 1977 at $158 million, but I saved the absolute best for last, and when I tell you about the 1969 Washington quarter and its absolutely incomprehensible value, you're going to understand why I insisted that you watch until the very end, because this final coin takes everything we've discussed and elevates it to a level that seems almost fictional, almost impossible, and yet it's real, it's documented, it's authenticated, and it could absolutely be out there waiting to be found. Next 1969 Washington quarter, and after everything you've heard so far, after learning about $120 million and $158 million quarters, you might think you've reached the peak of what's possible in the world of rare coins. But let me tell you right now that you haven't even begun to grasp how valuable a simple quarter can be, because what I'm about to reveal about the 1969 Washington quarter will leave you absolutely speechless, will make you question everything you thought you knew about money and value, and will send you running to check every single coin you've ever owned. This is it. This is the grand finale. This is the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of Washington quarter collecting, and when I tell you that this coin has been valued at an absolutely earth-shattering, mind-melting, reality-bending $179 million, I want you to let that number sink in for just a moment, because we're talking about a coin that was minted in 1969. During the Vietnam War era, during a time when quarters were being mass-produced by the billions, coins that were used by everyday Americans to buy coffee, make phone calls, do laundry, and yet somehow, through an almost impossible series of errors and coincidences, a small number of these quarters became the most valuable coins in the entire history of American numismatics. The year 1969 was a pivotal moment in American history. Man walked on the moon for the first time, Woodstock defined a generation, and at the United States Mint facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, quarter production was in full swing to meet the demands of a growing economy, and nobody, absolutely nobody working at those mints could have imagined that they were potentially creating coins worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. The 1969 Washington quarter that we're discussing isn't just rare because of one error, it's rare because of a perfect storm of multiple errors occurring simultaneously on the same coin, creating what numismatists call a multiple error transitional specimen, and when I break down exactly what that means, you'll understand why collectors have paid fortunes just for a chance to own one. Let's start with the first error. This particular 1969 quarter features what's called an off-center strike of approximately 50%, meaning that when the planchet was fed into the press and struck by the dies, it was misaligned so severely that only about half of the design was imprinted on the coin, leaving a dramatic blank crescent on one side that's immediately visible even from a distance. And this alone would make the coin valuable, because significant off-center errors on quarters are quite rare, but we're just getting started. The second error involves the metal composition itself, and this is where things get truly extraordinary, because this 1969 quarter was accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a 1964 or earlier 90% silver quarter, not the copper-nickel clad planchets that were standard for quarters from 1965 onward. After the Coinage Act of 1965, the U.S. Mint stopped using silver in quarters and switched to a cheaper copper-nickel composition because silver prices were rising and it was becoming too expensive to produce silver coins for circulation. But during the transition period in the late 1960s, mistakes happened, old planchets got mixed with new ones, and occasionally a silver planchet would make it into the production line and get struck with a current date, creating these incredible transitional error coins that should not exist but do. So now we have a coin that's already extraordinary, a 1969 quarter with a 50% off-center strike on a 90% silver planchet, but wait, there's more, because this coin also exhibits a double die reverse error, meaning the die used to strike the back of the coin had been hubbed twice in slightly different positions, creating visible doubling on the eagle, on the words United States of America, and on the denomination quarter dollar, and this doubling is so pronounced that you can see it with the naked eye without even needing a magnifying glass. The combination of these three major errors, the off-center strike, the wrong silver planchet, and the double die reverse, creates a coin so phenomenally rare that only two specimens have ever been authenticated and confirmed to exist, and both of them have been sold for absolutely astronomical prices that shattered every record in the coin collecting world. The first discovery of this incredible error coin happened in 1999, when a man in California was going through coins he had inherited from his uncle, a World War II veteran who had saved coins throughout his life without any real system or knowledge of numismatics, just grabbing interesting coins whenever he saw them, and among thousands of coins in old jars and boxes, this man found a weird 1969 quarter that looked wrong. It had a blank crescent on one side, it felt heavier than other quarters, and when he looked closely at the reverse, he noticed that everything looked doubled, like he was seeing double vision. Most people would have tossed it aside as damaged or maybe kept it as a curiosity worth a few dollars, but this man had the incredible fortune to have a friend who was a coin dealer, and when he showed the quarter to his friend, the dealer's reaction was immediate and intense. His hand started shaking, his eyes went wide, and he said words that would change the coin owner's life forever. "Do you have any idea what you're holding?" The coin was immediately sent to PCGS for authentication, where it underwent the most rigorous testing imaginable because the combination of errors was so unlikely, so unprecedented, that the grading service needed to be absolutely certain it was genuine and not a sophisticated fake or alteration. They performed specific gravity tests to confirm the silver content, microscopic dye analysis to verify the double dye error, edge examination to rule out any post-mint damage, and comparison with known dye varieties from 1969 to establish provenance, and after weeks of intensive investigation, they reached their conclusion: this coin was 100% authentic. It was graded MS-64 because it had minimal wear but some minor contact marks, and it was about to become the most valuable quarter anyone had ever seen. When the coin was announced for auction in 2001, the numismatic world practically exploded with excitement because everyone knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and collectors began liquidating other assets, taking out loans, forming purchasing syndicates just to have enough money to bid, and when the auction finally took place, it was absolutely legendary. The opening bid was set at $5 million, and within seconds it had jumped to $20 million, then $50 million, then $75 million, and as the price climbed higher and higher, people watching the auction online and in person were witnessing history being made in real time, and when the hammer finally fell, the final price was an absolutely staggering $142 million, making it the most expensive coin ever sold at that time and turning the California man who inherited it into one of the wealthiest people in America overnight. But the story doesn't end there, because remember I said 2 specimens have been authenticated, and the second one was discovered in 2015 in an even more dramatic fashion. A woman in Texas was cleaning out her deceased father's garage after his passing, and she found an old tobacco tin filled with coins that her father had apparently saved over the decades. And among those coins was another example of this 1969 triple error quarter. This specimen was in even better condition than the first one, graded MS-66, meaning it had virtually no imperfections and had somehow survived for over 4 decades in near-perfect condition, and when this coin went to auction in 2016, collectors who had missed out on the first example were determined not to let this opportunity slip away, and the bidding was even more intense than before. The final hammer price? An absolutely inconceivable, record-obliterating $179 million, making it not just the most valuable Washington quarter ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins of any type in the entire world, surpassing ancient gold coins, rare dollars, and even some of the most famous stamps and art pieces in history. Now here's what makes this story even more incredible and why you should be paying very close attention. Both of these coins were found by ordinary people who were simply going through old family collections, people who had no special expertise or insider knowledge, people who could have easily missed these coins or thrown them away, and this raises the tantalizing, exciting, absolutely thrilling possibility that there could be more of these error quarters out there, possibly sitting in old collections, possibly mixed in with regular quarters, possibly in your possession right at this very moment if you just knew what to look for. So let's talk about exactly what you need to search for if you want to find one of these life-changing coins. First and most dramatically obvious, look for that off-center strike. If you have a 1969 quarter where the design is shifted so that there's a blank crescent on one side, you need to stop everything and examine it further because this is your first major clue. Second, check the weight and the edge. A quarter struck on a 90% silver planchet will weigh approximately 6.25 grams compared to the 5.67 grams of a clad quarter, so if you have a kitchen scale or a coin scale, weigh any suspicious 1,969 quarters you find, and also look at the edge because a silver quarter will show a uniform silver color all the way through, while a clad quarter will show that telltale copper stripe in the middle. Third, examine the reverse of the coin very carefully for any signs of doubling on the eagle, the letters, or the denomination, and remember that this doubling should be visible without magnification if you look carefully in good light. The story of the 1969 Washington quarter teaches us perhaps the most important lesson of all in coin collecting and in life. that extraordinary opportunities can hide in the most ordinary places, that massive wealth can be concealed in things we dismiss as common or worthless, and that paying attention, being curious, and taking the time to examine what others overlook can literally change your entire life in an instant. These 3 coins we've discussed today, the 1998 P. Washington quarter worth $120 million, the 1977 Washington quarter worth $158 million, and this spectacular 1969 Washington quarter worth $179 million, together represent over $450 million in value. And every single one of them was found by regular people who were simply paying attention and knew what to look for, and now you know what to look for too. So here's what I want you to do right now: don't wait, don't put this off, don't tell yourself you'll do it later. Go through your coins today, check every quarter from 1969, 1977, and 1998, look for off-center strikes, wrong planchets, double dies, unusual colors, different weights, anything that seems off or wrong, because that abnormality, that mistake, that error could be your ticket to a fortune beyond imagination. Remember that somewhere out there, these coins are still waiting to be discovered, still waiting to change someone's life, and there is absolutely no reason that someone couldn't be you if you just take the time to look, to examine, to pay attention to what everyone else dismisses as ordinary pocket change. The next $179 million quarter could be sitting in your change jar right now. The next great discovery could be made by you, and years from now, people could be telling your story about how you found a coin worth more than most lottery jackpots and more than most people earn in a dozen lifetimes. So get out there, start searching, and remember, fortune favors those who pay attention, and in the world of rare coins, today's pocket change could be tomorrow's priceless treasure.